In this video, I'm going to share with you what an elimination diet is and how to go about it. Okay, so an elimination diet is, I like to think about it as an experiment. You're experimenting with certain foods to see how you feel, how your body does. There's so much diet dogma. I've been sucked into a lot of it. And what happens is that we can get so attached to some diet and not actually listen to our body's signals. Oh, I'm eating this thing and it's making me bloated. Oh, I'm eating this, when I eat this, my skin breaks out. Oh, when I eat this, I feel foggy, or I'm having thyroid issues, or I'm chronically fatigued. But if we're just not paying attention to that or not doing these sort of elimination experiments, we may never know that it's the food that's driving that. And I'm so passionate about this because 8 years ago, I was having a health crisis. I had thyroid issues, I was gaining a ton of weight, super brain fogged, my toes were going numb, my fingers were going numb, losing hair, I was anxious, I had horrible ADHD symptoms, and I'd gone from this like hyperactive kid who could not get out of, or who could not sit still, to somebody who didn't want to get out of bed in the morning. And it was such a dramatic shift, and everything felt like such a burden. And I was just like, what is wrong with me? Like, I know this is not normal. I went to 6 different doctors, all of whom just handed me prescriptions. They couldn't really find anything wrong. And then finally went to a holistic practitioner. She was the only one that asked me what was I eating. And at the time, I thought I was doing pretty well. Eating like what was preached as healthy, like whole grains, low-fat yogurt, eating a lot of like wheat. And come to find out that so much of what I was eating was destroying my body. And so as I speak today, I don't want to demonize any foods, but I want you to know that there's so much of our health and the way we show up in the world and how we feel, our mood, it's so connected to what is on the end of your fork. And if what's on the end of your fork is something that's driving a lot of inflammation, like, it's so important for you to know so you can pull that lever and then know how to make it sustainable. Because a lot of it, we can know what to eat. Maybe we do find out what's good for us, but it's not always easy to sustain it based on cravings, emotional eating, just habits of eating certain things. So I want to help you with that too. Okay, so first off though, there's a lot of commonly problematic foods that it's really helpful in the beginning to, if you're eating like a standard American diet, just to go to, like what I did in the beginning was committing to a whole food diet. Things like the Whole30, if you've ever heard of that, or a paleo diet, paleo, ancestral eating. And what this does is it's removing a lot of the commonly problematic triggers. Things like gluten, dairy, grains, soy, legumes, hyper-processed food, sugar, and industrial seed oils. Things like canola oil, sunflower oil, safflower oil. And really getting back to whole real foods, meaning meat, fish, eggs, vegetables, whole fruit, nuts, seeds, just focusing on eating real food. And one thing I suggest when you're doing an elimination diet, like in the beginning, like don't worry about calories right now. Like let yourself honor your hunger signals, because you're going to start feeling so much more satiated with food. And it can be really hard to like be trying to eat like an elimination and feel a little bit restricted in that way, and then also be trying to like starve yourself and cut calories to lose weight. Like, let yourself just have like 21 days or 30 days and just focusing on like eat as much as you want, but just eat the right foods as far as like following that elimination, so you can really see what foods are right for you. So how this works, you eliminate these certain foods for X amount of time, and then you systematically reintroduce them to see if they're causing you issues. And so you may need to go longer than 21 days or 30 days. For me, it was like I felt so freaking good after 30 days. I never wanted to go back. I mean, this was 8 years ago, and I never went back to the old way of eating. I've not introduced really any of that stuff because I loved the food I was eating. Your taste buds will change. And I just felt so good. It was like, why would I ever want to choose that again? And then, the more I ate clean, the more I got used to that, the more I craved those foods, stopped eating super stimulating processed food. So now real food tasted good, like a sweet potato. I didn't need to add a pound of brown sugar on top of it or anything like that, which I used to, or like sugar to my strawberries. Like, no way now, because I don't eat like hyper processed food, that it's just like a boiled egg tastes good. Like everything tastes good because your taste buds will get so sensitive, and then real food tastes so good. And there's just so many simple swaps now. We're so lucky that there's a lot of companies who created products to help us bridge the gap between like a standard American diet and like eating super healthy, like having those modern go-tos. So I'll share with some of you in those videos. But just back to, okay, elimination diet. So we're getting out these certain food, things like the gluten, dairy, soy, beans, and excess sugar, processed food, and eating real food. And then you give yourself that certain time, and then you slowly, systematically reintroduce. So then if you do, you have a reintroduction of dairy, you eat some dairy after, say, 30 days, and then it's so wild, and I see this all the time with my clients, is the reactions will be a lot more noticeable because you're no longer that's no longer become like a baseline for you. The reactions, so migraines, with dairy especially, headaches, migraines, bloating, gas, diarrhea, so many IBS, like dairy is so related to IBS, and also, if I didn't mention, skin issues is a huge one, allergies are a big one with dairy, asthma. And so if you are like, and then you notice that when you eat it again, like anxiety is a huge one with dairy, which is wild, and it's so true. And I've literally had one guy in particular that I used to work with, and it was like, he literally ate some cheese one night. He's like, I'm having and this may sound so far-fetched, but I literally have the text. He's like, Ellie, I'm literally having like a panic attack after eating this like cheese smorgasbord, like a couple hours later. And it was just such a huge impact on his nervous system, and which is wild. And the science is there. I mean, they're called casomorphins. You can look up more of that. I'll create a video on it, but it has a big impact on your nervous system. Your gut is your second brain, if not your first brain, and it creates so many of your neurotransmitters, meaning like your dopamine, your itch to want to go do things, your motivation. It produces your serotonin. That's your happiness hormone. Your mood, good mood, feeling pleasure. And so if you're eating things that are really causing the disruption of your gut, that is going to affect your neurochemistry, your mood, how you show up in the world, what you think, what you feel. It's so important to figure this out. Anyways, so that was an example to reintroduce dairy. And maybe you tolerate dairy, or maybe you tolerate different forms of dairy. So you can tolerate, there's different types. So you can reintroduce cow's dairy, see how you feel. You can reintroduce sheep's milk. You can reintroduce a raw dairy. A lot of people do really well on raw dairy. And so it's listening to your body. And that's, I think, the biggest thing. I may have mentioned this in this video already, but the diet dogma, I've been so sucked into it too, where I stopped listening to my body and I listen to, but it's not paleo, or it's not carnivore, or it's not Southwest Beach, whatever it is. But it's just like, it doesn't matter. That's a framework. It's a great framework to start out with, but then you tune in to your own self. Oh, when I eat this, I feel this way. Or, oh, when I eat this, it causes me major sugar cravings. Like, there's paleo foods that I avoid because when I eat them, like paleo-fied foods, like dark chocolate, dairy-free brownies or something, like, great. They've got great ingredients. Yes, for a special occasion, eat it. But, like, there's some things, my brain just lights up. If you haven't followed this channel, I'm a previous sugar addict. So it's like, I've got to be so mindful of that. And just taking it as data, not like I'm broken or I'm bad if I eat it. It's just like, this is what happens when I eat this. I feel lousy. I feel like garbage. I end up overeating. And that's the data. It's like, do I want that for myself? Not really, because when I don't eat it, I don't crave it. So yeah, this elimination experiments are about learning what's right for you, how your body's reacting, and to give yourself time. So with things like starting like trying a paleo diet or the Whole30, it's so important to do like 100% commitment to it, and doing it for at least 21 days, because it takes time for your gut to heal. And the reason I say the 100% is because it takes very little, especially when it comes to like gluten and dairy and soy. For these proteins, it takes like a 1/8 of a fingernail amount that can create a huge immune reaction in your body. So if you're constantly like every 2 days just like having a crouton, or like I'll just put a little bit of milk in my coffee, like you're not gonna get the magic and the healing that you could get if you truly commit to doing the 100%. Like, it's not like a diet where you're like 80-20. It's like, go all in so you can feel your best. And I promise you, most likely you're not gonna even want to reintroduce it, because you're gonna get used to it and feel so good that you're gonna break that craving and that semi-addiction to that certain food and just feel good on other real foods. And so yeah, doing the 100%. And comparison, people often ask me about like food sensitivity testing. It can be helpful for sure, but there's just a lot of limitations with it because a lot of the food sensitivity tests, they'll test for only one realm of your immune system or one form of your immune system. Basically, we have like 5 or 6 immune divisions, and IgA, IgE, IgG, IgD, IgM, and they're like different. You can think of them as like the Army, the Marines, like they're different forces of your body. And if your IgG reaction is happening, but you're getting tested for IgA, and so your IgA is coming up like, no, you don't have a problem with gluten, but IgG is reacting, and you notice that you are exhausted, you're puffy in the morning, you're bloated, like you are having a reaction. So regardless of what this test says, like your body's telling you something. And so your body's the gold standard, but it's learning how to listen and doing an elimination diet long enough to actually see that shift. And a lot of times it doesn't take that long, especially, oh my gosh, like my IBS clients, like it's like 10 days and they're like, oh my gosh, like how did I not know this? I've been living on Imodium for 10 years and even just 2 weeks or 10 days off of these major trigger foods and I feel so much better. And it's like, oh my gosh, I just want to preach it to the world because I see it so often. And if you're really struggling, like especially diagnoses like that, like IBS, when you're just told it's like a chronic thing and you're gonna have to deal with it forever. Like that is not true. You can heal and you don't have to live with that. All right, so side tangent. So back to the 100%, give yourself at least 21 days, ideally 30, ideally 90. It takes a while for the full immune reaction to like calm down, and focus on eating the real foods. And I mentioned paleo and Whole30 are great like starting framework. And if you're still having immune symptoms, a lot of times going to the more extreme route. So even like eliminating the plant foods, or even like going to more of like a carnivore style diet and then reintroducing from there. And that's been super helpful. Like I'd eaten paleo for like 8 years and I was still getting these random little patches of eczema on my wrist. It's like something's not quite right. And then I ended up hearing a podcast on carnivore and I was like, I'm just gonna try it. Like, let's go. I love meat. Like, let's go. And my eczema went away within like 2 weeks. And then I reintroduced like certain foods and I could see like which vegetables I tolerated well, which ones I didn't. And it can be wild because we're like, all vegetables are super healthy. They also have defense mechanisms. And depending on your system, your state of being, the state of your gut health, you may not tolerate a lot of them, like certain amounts. And so it's just, again, test on yourself, eliminate and test, see how you feel. Am I extremely bloated? Like for me, broccoli, if I eat red broccoli, I'm dying. Like it wrenches my stomach. I feel horrible. But you can get preached all day how great broccoli is for us, but I don't want to live like that. And so again, pay attention for you. And if you have a lot of autoimmune conditions, it may be really beneficial to do carnivore and then reintroduce. Or do just like an animal-based diet where you're eating really benign fruits and vegetables, things like squashes or whole fruit versus, and I'm getting into like the very nuanced. So if this is overwhelming to you, don't worry. Just start with like the low-hanging fruit of getting off like gluten, dairy, try getting off grains and processed sugar and the processed seed oils, and then see how you feel. Start there. But if you're more nuanced, if you're more like having autoimmune issues, like look up like autoimmune paleo, a little bit more strict. Try carnivore and then come back, then reintroduce things. And again, it's all like there's no way you can do this wrong, but commit to yourself and pay attention to your body signals. It's easy. It's great to keep a journal of those because it's easy to forget how we were feeling. I have my clients do this because then you start feeling great and it's like you can forget that it was the certain foods that were causing it. So you start eating them again and you start feeling crappy again. It's like, wait, why? Oh, because I'm eating bread again. That's why I feel lethargic and I've gained 10 pounds. And I don't want to demonize bread, but like, just an example. Anyways, elimination diets are so helpful. If you are not feeling optimal, like it may be worth giving a try. If you've got IBS, skin issues, thyroid issues, if you've got any autoimmune conditions, like absolutely pay attention to your diet. If you've got depression, anxiety, like diet has such a huge impact on that. And if you need help, so that is what I'm here for. If you need help, I coach one-on-one. I also lead 21-day resets. These are a very modern paleo approach to doing these kind of diets Because it can be hard to make something like this work in a modern day when you're busy and it's like, what do I even eat? And a lot of foods look like they are the right thing and they end up sneaking ingredients in. And so I've created a toolkit, and basically it's like everything you could possibly need: what to get dining out, how to dine out at restaurants, how to travel, what all the healthy snacks, like labeled them. I've created Amazon lists. Like, it's so easy. And even if not, you can type in, like, there's so many, just like anything you want to make, type in like a paleo version of that, and there is a recipe: Whole30 macaroni and cheese, and it will come up, and it will be dairy free and grain free, and just such an up level. And yeah, there's so much online right now, but I know it can be really overwhelming. And so if you need help, like, join me. I'm doing the 21-day reset in January, and then if you want to one-on-one coach, I usually have a couple spots open each month. So reach out. You can reach out to me at ellie@mindfulbelly.com, or schedule a free strategy session at calendly.com/mindfulbelly. But just start. Just look up paleo, plan some healthy meals, and take it 1 week at a time. Like, chunk it down, make it so easy on yourself, but just do something, because you're worth it. You're worth feeling good, and you're worth taking action for. And it, like, the time flies so quickly. And if you need help with like the sugar cravings, and I know it can be difficult in the beginning. I remember when I started, I was just like, the first time I didn't make it 24 hours. I ended up binging on a box of these like gluten-free brownies that were not on the Whole30 or the elimination diet. And I felt like a failure, but I didn't let that keep me down. It felt like a failure for a little bit, but then I was like, I'm doing this. And then I did it again. I made it 30 days and my whole life changed. And then I became a health coach. I was a chemical engineer, but it was such a radical difference that I quit my job to become a coach, because it was everything to me. And I was so upset that I had gone through the medical system and never knew that it could be as simple as diet. And sometimes it's more, but you have to figure that is such a foundational piece for any disease, any health ailment. Like, that has to be addressed. And so do that for yourself, because you're worth it. All right, I love you guys so much. Reach out to me if you have questions. Bye.